So excited to introduce you all to my guest for this episode of Fireside Chat. He's one of the pioneers of globalizing Korean entertainment, probably most well known for his role in Psy's Gangnam Style phenomenon. And most recently, you've probably noticed him at all of those Hollywood award ceremonies, hanging out with those lead actors from the hit K-drama Squid Game, and probably all thought to yourself, who is that guy? Is he an actor? Because he certainly looks like he could be one. Well, no, he's not an actor. He is international marketing and production executive. Currently, he's the CEO and producer of KINO33 Entertainment. And of course, my longtime friend, joining us from Seoul, Korea today, Mr. Kyu Lee.
Stop recording right now.
Did you like my intro?
Yeah, you went from Nuna to all of a sudden anchor voice. Oh my goodness.
Well, that's my job. That's my job. But thank you so much, Kyu, for taking the time today to join us for this show. Right now here in LA, it's 4:30 p.m. And of course, over there in Seoul, Korea, it's 8:30 in the morning. Rise and shine. I'm sure you don't start off your mornings like this every day.
No, not always. Every once in a while, but I had a long night. I can't believe I was able to wake up, but I'm here.
Thank you.
I didn't want to screw it up, so here we are. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So so many people are curious about exactly what does Kyu Lee do, because if you look on your Instagram page, just in their profile section, description says that you do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. So what do you do? Tell us.
Exactly, just as it says, a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I mean, I'm pretty cryptic with my Instagram. I don't really give much detail on what I do. I have a hidden reason why I do that. It keeps people off track, keeps people curious. I love to, promote a lot of the people that I work with and what I do, but without, boasting too much. More of a subtle way of, hey, these things are going on, and I hope you guys are staying in touch and staying tuned in what's going on, because we got a lot of cool things happening, and I just try to do it in a subtle way where it's not overdone. And then on top of that, just to keep myself on my toes and to keep my competition on their toes, and trying to keep a poker face and not give away too much. But at the end of the day, I've been in the entertainment business for 23 years now.
Wow.
As you know, I was at Sony Pictures, for 10 of those years doing film marketing, distribution, a little bit of production, where I learned just so much about the industry, about people in the business, and just the system of how things are, just the circle of life of entertainment from top to bottom, from bottom to top. I segued into doing a lot more production than distribution, because creative was something that I enjoyed a whole lot more than number crunching. So Sony had sent me to Korea in 2009 to oversee the marketing distribution locally. But my hidden mission was to do local language production, which is producing films in the Korean market locally for the local market and hopefully to the world. So those were the goals and aspirations that I had going into Korea, and it's led me into continuing to do production in film and TV and a little bit of music throughout the years. So I thought Korea would be like a 2 to 3 year stint and I'd be back in LA, but unbeknownst to me, it's become 13. But my jack of all trades, day-to-day business is mostly film production. Secondary is TV, and then thirdly is a little bit of A&R and music. And for people that don't understand what A&R means, it's artist and repertoire. It's putting songwriters and producers and singers together and collaborating in a way where we can produce an amazing song, an amazing track. And then, the promotion process and the release process and all that kind of stuff. So I've dabbled in all three sectors of film, TV, and music, and I'm still doing that today. KINO33 Entertainment is my label based in the States, and Artist Studio is a company that's owned by Jungjae and Woosung, and I'm the managing director of that company currently as well. So that's my main line of business in Korea. And long story short, KINO33 is my company in the US.
And what exactly is your role at Artist Company and Artist Direction?
I'm actually running the operations of the entire company. So
okay.
Jung Woosung and Jungjae are the owners of the company, and I operate the company as managing director. So
Jungjae is, of course, the lead actor of Squid Game, and Jung Woosung, of course, very well-known Korean actor.
Yes. So to explain that, Artist Company is a full-fledged, full-service management company where we oh my God, I lost my train of thought all of a sudden. We represent 22 actors. And then we have Artist Studio, which is our production unit, our production arm, where we're actually sourcing and developing and producing TV and film. So our first production was A Silent Sea, which is now on Netflix, that you can catch on Netflix. And then we have a espionage film called Hunt, which will be Lee Jungjae's directorial debut.
I saw that.
Also stars Lee Jungjae and Jung Woosung. I don't, I'm not trying to organically just plug the movie all of a sudden, but that releases on August 10th here in Korea, and we're extremely excited about it.
Is that releasing here too in the States at all?
Hopefully in the future. We're working on that right now, but it'll be a Korean release first, released by Megabox here in Korea. So we had the world premiere of it at Cannes Film Festival. We were, extremely lucky and honored to be invited to the midnight screenings in Cannes in late May. So we had a very successful trip out there, and now we're getting ready for the release of it here in Korea.
Well, it seems like nowadays, Korean drama, Korean films, K-pop, of course, it's really going worldwide.
Absolutely.
Do you think that, I know that, a lot of this probably started, I'm thinking with Psy's Gangnam Style, right? It kind of paved the way for Korean entertainment to make like a mark on the global map.
Sure. In the media and in the public eye and all that kind of stuff, I think, yes, Gangnam Style, was a milestone. But, I really believe that, we need to give credit where credit's due to, all the people that have paved the way prior to Gangnam Style. The girls' generations and the Big Bangs and the 2NE1s and even let's even go way back to the days of Solid and As One and all this kind of stuff where the Korean Americans paved the way in going to Korea to go through that struggle to create that path to let Korean music known in the biggest of ways. I think when we listen to old Solid songs and As One and Jay and all that kind of stuff, it's like nostalgic, right?
Right.
And I think that was the beginning of it, and then it was the girls' generations and the 2NE1s and the Big Bangs and the Super Juniors that kind of paved the way. And I have to give credit to them, because if I never had any inspiration from those people, then maybe I wouldn't have cared about trying to push Gangnam Style into the US through someone like Scooter Braun or anyone like that. So yeah, Gangnam Style was a huge milestone for us. I think BTS parlayed that into even bigger success, and they've been able to continue that wave and continue that rise in success through maintaining that wave. And now we have, thanks to Netflix and other OTT platforms, Korean dramas are killing it
Yeah.
Korean films have paved the way with 태극기 휘날리며, with Parasite, you know, all those films that Park Chan-wook 감독님 and Bong Joon-ho 감독님 and so many other amazing directors have paved the way for. So it's really been a collective effort of many unrecognized talents and films and content as well. So
Right.
you know,
And it's
I
amazing.
believe it's a full effort.
Yeah. And I feel like, you know, even watching mainstream news or, you know, those talk shows, morning talk shows, nighttime talk shows, you know,
Sure.
I had seen a lot of, not so often, but you do, you know, often, you know, you would see K-pop stars maybe appearing, but I never had seen any Korean drama
Right.
actors appearing on these shows. And just to
Right.
see that with Squid Game, because Squid Game blew up, right?
Right.
All
Right.
of a sudden everyone's wearing these green tracksuits saying 456. So it's like,
Yeah.
and seeing these people, I just got the chills right now because when I was watching one of the nighttime talk shows, and I remember Lee Jungjae appeared, and what really impressed me was the fact that he, you know, he spoke his language.
Yes.
He didn't feel the need to speak English. I'm sure he does speak very well, but the fact that he just comfortably just sat there and looked at the talk show host straight in the eye, didn't look at the translator, but looked at him straight in the eye. I was so impressed. I still got the chills right now.
Right. I mean, you know, you got to respect him for that. I mean, he's been in the business for 30 plus years. He's super polished. He knows exactly what he wants to get across.
Yeah.
He's educated. He's respected. He's articulate. He's just very well polished, and you know, that's what makes him so great. You know, I think you're talking about the Stephen Colbert show that we did
Yes.
last year in December, and
Yeah.
obviously Stephen is very polished and he's so good at what he does as well. So it was an amazing collaboration to put them together, and also to give credit to Haley, who was our translator. That's not her main, you know, day-to-day job, but it's also something she's so really incredibly good at. So it was a great collaboration of Stephen and JJ, you know, Jungjae, and obviously Haley, her translator, who was amazing.
Yeah.
There was just so much good chemistry there, and I think it turned into a really good night because of all three of those people together.
And just the fact that, you know, mainstream society now, you know, people want more Korean entertainment, you know, people and content, and the fact that it's wanted. That's why these shows are inviting all these people over, because they know that that's what you know, the people want. So, you know, and just a while ago, you mentioned all of those different projects like 태극기 휘날리며, and, you know, all of those. I know that you were part of it too. So I'd love for you to just talk about kind of like your history, because I know that while you were at Sony Pictures, because when I first met you, you were at Sony Pictures. I think in 2005, that's when I first met you.
Yes. Well, I think even before that, but at any rate, yes, I was.
Yeah. So tell us about. Well, let's go back this way, because I know you're from Seattle.
Right.
What brought you to LA, and how did you first get into Sony, and then just take it from there?
Oh my God, that's such a long story. We could be up all night talking about that. But I'll try to be as to the point as I possibly can without rambling too much. Yes, I'm from Seattle. I went to the University of Washington, and literally was very isolated and situated in Seattle. Didn't know anything outside of that, really. But I fell in love with sitcoms and Jackie Chan film outtakes and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, because I come from a sports background, I've always enjoyed being around people. I've always enjoyed being a team player and doing my part in reaching, you know, the big picture goal. I was never really an individualist. I didn't like playing individual sports. I always enjoyed just being a part of some kind of, you know, organization. And when I was watching sitcoms like Friends, watching Jackie Chan films, and watching the outtakes of all the, you know, the bloopers of all the things that happen behind the scenes in the films, and watching the collaboration and chemistry of the cast of Friends and how they got along so well,
Right.
you know, from what we can see. I wanted to be a part of something like that. So, you know, started to cross off my list of things that I don't want was so easy. And then being so keen on and so adamant about, so, you know, passionate about what I wanted to do versus what I didn't want to do was very clear on that list. And it just happened to end up being sports and entertainment. Having said that, you know, prior to going down to LA, I, you know, made a list of companies, wrote down a list of companies in all through Southern California, of all the different entertainment companies and sports teams that existed. And I literally prepared about 300 resumes and 300 cover letters to send out to all these different companies to see, you know, where I could land a job. But long story short, you know, through the network that I had created when I was in college, up until today, you know, I had called an old friend and said, hey, you know, I plan on visiting LA. You know, you told me that you would host me if I go out there. Can I stay at your place? Da, 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 da. And I ended up going down to LA in 2001 for the first time as an adult on my own. Got on a plane, got down there, stayed at a buddy's house. And he hosted me at the house, and it just so happened to be the same week that the Oscars was going to take place. And you know, my friend was like, hey, you know, what are you doing this weekend on Sunday? It's Oscar weekend. And you know, in LA, when it's Oscar weekend, we do potlucks, and people get together. We do these little games where whoever, you know, gets the most nominations or the most wins gets a prize, and all the, you know, you should make sure you're out there, or you're here with us to celebrate. And I'm like, the Oscars, man, I've been watching that on TV ever since I was a kid. Isn't that like literally down the street from your house? He's like, yeah. I'm like, well, let's go. And he's like, what do you mean let's go? You can't just go there. I'm like, well, no, I'm not saying let's go to, you know, actually go in, you know, let's go and just like, you know, enjoy the atmosphere. Because every time I watch it on TV, there's all these fans across the street and in and around that are, you know, cheering and hollering at all the actors that are getting out of the red carpet and getting out of their limos and whatnot. I want to go see that. And he's like, well, no, that's impossible, because people that are there are actually camping out for like 2-3 days just to get that spot. And back then it was at the Shrine Auditorium across from USC. And I was like, well, I still want to go. And he's like, well, good luck. I'm like, well, have you actually gone yourself? Just like you said, you know, how hard it is. And he's like, no. Well, then how do you actually know? And he's like, well, I just know. You just can't, you know how people do that. I just know, it's just impossible. You can't do it. I was like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, I'm gonna still try it out. So he's like, good luck. So I went. And this is a whole nother tangent that I'm gonna go off of on, but you know, just to give you a little background on how it happened. When I was a kid, I used to buy the cheapest seats at the Seattle Mariner games. I was like on the 300 level, way up top. But as the innings had progressed and you got later and later into the game, you know, people would leave because they want to beat traffic to get home. So you would see these empty seats, or people that never showed up to the game that just couldn't show up that day, or ticket or seats that weren't sold. And I would find a way to kind of sneak down and get closer and closer and closer. And by the end of the game, I'd literally be in box seats, which are the most important.
You were the filler.
Yeah, I was like the most, you know, I would find the most expensive seat in the house at the stadium. And, you know, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, I would be in these, you know, expensive seats watching the game for at least for 1 or 2 innings. And that was just like, you know, the spice of life for me, you know, when I was a kid. I took the same kind of innocent strategy when I was at the Oscars.
Oh my goodness.
And because I was alone, I was able to kind of weave through the crowd. and get closer and closer to the Oscars. And I had walked around enough times to kind of figure out, you know, the vicinity and how things are, you know, rolling and where there's open holes and all that kind of stuff. And I happened to, you know, see some Asian people. And I was really curious because I've never seen Asian people on TV at the Oscars. It was always white people or black people or Latino people or people from Europe or whatever. And to see Asian people there was just fascinating and confusing and made me really curious. So when I saw them, I was even more curious to know who they were. So I got closer and closer and closer until I actually saw their face. And it was Chow Yun-fat and Kyu Lee and Michelle Yeoh and all these different people. And I was like, oh my God, how are they here? And as I got closer and closer, I was literally almost, you know, less than 10 feet away from these people. And then the guard saw me. And I've given different renditions of the story, but I mean, you know, just to make it entertaining, I switched up a little bit. But to be completely honest, when you see security guards and cops or police officers, to be, you know, more respectful, you know, you're all of a sudden you freeze and you're in your best behavior.
Right.
You know, if it's like 25 miles per hour zone, you go 23, just so you know, you don't give them an excuse to pull you over. So like I took that same naive approach when I saw security guards and whatnot, or off-duty police officers that were guarding, you know, certain areas. And you know, they thought I might have been suspect or whatever. So they're like, hey, what are you doing here? You know, just trying to make sure that they have, you know, the area under control. And I just froze. I couldn't say anything. And because I didn't say anything, they were ignorant enough to think that I didn't speak any English. And then they saw the other Asian people behind me, the Chinese people behind me. And they're like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, they thought that you were part of the team.
Yes, yes.
So how were you dressed?
So I was dressed in a black suit.
Oh, you were just in a black suit. Okay.
Yeah, because you never know who you're going to meet, right?
Right.
You never know where you're going to end up. So
goodness.
I was you know, prepared. And I went, and I literally followed that entourage into the Oscars.
Oh my God, you went inside?
Yes.
Wow.
And, I went inside and I was like, oh my God, this is like the real thing. And back then it wasn't live, it was taped. So they had, like you said, they had volunteers that were seat fillers that were filling seats. Of empty seats that, you know, people weren't in. And I had seen that, and I started to find a seat kind of as close as possible to the Chinese entourage. I sat there, and they were going through the whole motions of, you know, presenting awards, and all of a sudden, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon wins an Oscar. And I had no idea what the movie was. I'd never seen it. And all of a sudden, the whole Asian conglomerate stands up and they're just having a party. I think it was the first Asian film ever to win an Oscar. And because I was in the vicinity, all the other people were like, you know, clamoring on my back saying congratulations. And I was not even in the entourage. I wasn't part of the party. I was probably about 10 to 15 seats even back from where they were sitting. But when that first happened, I was so startled. I thought I got caught and I was going to get screwed or go to jail or whatever for sneaking in. But, you know, they were actually hitting my back and trying to high five me to say congratulations, thinking I was with this crew. But that was the first one, and they won 3 more. So you can only imagine how comfortable I got after the 4th award.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't go up on stage with them to accept the award.
You know what? Now that I think about it, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should have, because if I did, no one would have known anyway. That would have been an event. I mean, that would have been like the highlight of, you know, me not being a liar. Because there's a lot of people today that still don't believe that I actually did it. But I mean, you know, so be it. But I was there. I was in the action. people were like, hey, congratulations, where's the party? I'm like, I don't know, where's the party? And then I found out it was at Crustacean in Beverly Hills off of Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, just me being Asian at the time, even for you, if you had known me back then, we would have probably been able to easily get into that party. And just because I was part of that, you know, supposedly part of that entourage, and I was Asian enough to pass, you know, through the entrance of Crustacean, I was able to, you know, hustle my way into the party as well.
Wow.
Where I met all the actors to say congratulations. And
but did they ever ask who you were?
No, man, because they were all so excited. You know, they didn't care who anyone was. If you were there, you were there.
Wow.
And if you were there, you were somebody.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everyone was in their tuxes and suits and all this kind of stuff, and so many beautiful people there that, you know, if you were beautiful and you were there, you were just accepted.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I got into Crustacean, you know, I met Jungjae, who's one of the actors from Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, and I introduced myself and I said congratulations. And through all that craziness, there were all these executives and Hollywood people that I had no idea who anyone was coming up and congratulating the cast of Crouching Tiger, and organically they, you know, were introduced to me and I was introduced to them, and I started getting all these business cards. And then I realized when I was there, I was like, oh my God, okay, so it looks like I'm at the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon party. And it looks like it was produced and distributed by Sony Pictures. Mm-hmm. This must be the Sony Pictures Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon party. Wow. Post Oscars. You know, I got the right business cards. I was at the right place in the right time. I met this gentleman by the name of Paul Smith, not the designer, but just, you know, someone with the same name that happened to be a very high executive at Sony Pictures Entertainment. He had a liking for me that day. Obviously, I might have put on had a good impression. And, you know, I was literally like, hey, man, I've been my dream is to work for a company like Sony, and I've been sending out resumes left and right. I mean, to be exact, 300 for that matter. And all I get are these, you know, automatic replies saying, hey, we have your resume on file, and we'll keep it on file for 6 months. And if there's any openings, we'll call you back. You know, that was the standard reply you would get when you applied to companies like that. I was like, I mean, is this a gimmick? Is this a fluke? Is this just standard operating procedure? How do you get a job? He's like, well, you know, honestly, you just got to know someone like me. I was like, oh, great. Well, I know you now. Right. You know, so it was a couple months of persistence, whatnot, of emailing him and calling him, faxing him, all that kind of stuff. And, you know, a couple months later, he invited me to the studio. Like you said, I was living in Seattle at the time because I was just fresh out of college. I took the next flight out. And he was a little bit fuzzy, a little bit foggy on how I had met him, you know, in March. So I kind of reminded him, oh, I was at the Crouching Tiger Hidden party. You know, I met you through, you know, some of the actors from Crouching Tiger. And he's like, oh, yeah, that's right. And he doesn't remember. But I mean, you know, he was trying to be polite. He's like, oh, of course. Okay. Hey, so what do you want to do? I'm like, well, I don't know what I want to do, but I know I want to work here. And he was so cool. He was cool enough to call the head of HR, this lady named Judy Benedict. At the time, I was literally 21 years old, scared. I was like a deer in headlights. She literally brought out a list of open positions and said, hey, you know, these are the open ones that you may qualify for. Which one are you interested in? And it happened to be a position in marketing as an assistant to executive director of creative advertising. So I was like, that's the one I would like to do. And literally, you know, 2 months later, I landed a job at Sony. So, you know, without telling you the background, it would have been really boring. So I'm giving you this full scope of the story of the process of how I got my first job. But, you know, long story short, those days of sneaking down to the expensive suites at Mariners games brought me to the Oscars. I was at the right place at the right time. Innocently, hustled my way into the Oscars, went to the after party, met some incredible people, and at the end of the day, it landed me a job that I certainly wasn't qualified for or deserved, but I worked my ass off when I got there, and I worked there for 10 years, in creative advertising and marketing. I had the privilege and honor to be the assistant to the chairman of the studio for 5 years, which put me in a whole different perspective and experience that, your normal, assistant or junior level manager could ever be exposed to. I got to see how a Hollywood studio was operated from top to bottom, from bottom to top. Learned so many things, inherited an amazing Rolodex of people that I had to gatekeep for my boss. He was like I still talk to him at least once every couple months, and he's like my second father, and I respect him to death. That experience extends all the way to today, because I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you about stuff like this, and I wouldn't be working for the people that I work with right now if it wasn't for the experience that I had inherited and garnered and built when I was at Sony Pictures Entertainment for the 10 years that I was there in LA. So it was definitely an amazing experience, and it continues on today. Yeah.
And just, what a fun story. I mean, and it's not, I don't think it's just, you being lucky and being at the right place at the right time. It's also the way you carry yourself. Because there are so many people who probably would have tried. I'm sure many people have tried it, just got arrested.
Well, you would now. Back then, that wasn't really the case.
No, but it's the way you carry yourself. It's different. And I know that about you. So it's just, and just the way you network, because networking is also so important, knowing the right people. But many people know how to network. Many people know how to socialize, but it's also keeping those contacts, those connections, and keeping the good friendships and giving your loyalty.
Absolutely.
What is your secret to all that? Because I know that in Korea, when they even describe you, they would use the word 황금 인맥, right?
Yes,
yes. The most connected person. And
that's honestly, that's kind of embarrassing to be labeled like that. But I mean, it really all roots down to the way that my parents raised me. I mean, my father was very, very, welcoming. My mother was very welcoming. My dad was a little bit more nonchalant, where my mother was very structured, and it was all about respect and about presenting yourself well and being polished and focused and polite, and knowing your atmosphere, and always being the first to go out there and shake someone's hand, and to respect them, and to bow and greet people. Even when I was a kid, I learned that in house. And we have a huge family on my mother's side of the family. She's the fifth child of 5 older brothers and sisters in Korea, which are my aunts and uncles. And then they all have 2 to 3 kids each, so, we have over 50 people just on my mother's side of the family that are relatives. So every time I would visit Korea, she's like, make sure, the minute you get there and you're settled in, you call everybody in order and tell them that you're there. So literally by age, from the eldest to the youngest, because I was the youngest at the time, to go through that whole list and say, hey, 안녕하세요. 저 기창이에요. 한국에 왔어요. I'm in Korea. Would love to see you, as soon as possible. And literally did that in order. So that it really became a habit. And it turned into a professional habit of every time I came in and out in Korea, I would call all the directors I knew, all the managers I knew, all the producers I knew, all the actors I knew, and just go down the line by age and make sure that I greeted everybody appropriately. And I still do that today, you know, to a certain extent. I mean, I've been in the business now for 20 some years, so, you know, I don't have to do that as regularly as I used to, but it became a routine for me to do. And I think because I was so well trained in doing that, genuinely, you know, it became part of my job. And you know, I can confidently say that, you know, a lot of people know me as the guy that's really good at greeting people. You know, 이규찬은 진짜 그 친구는 인사를 잘하네. You know, like, 진짜 예의 바르고 착하네. 라는 칭찬을 많이 들었어요. You know, I got a lot of compliments like that as someone that was very friendly and welcoming to people, you know, throughout my career. So I guess I could say that I'm proud of that.
Yeah,
but,
especially in Korean culture. That's
yeah, especially in Korean culture, especially in Asian culture is very important. Not just Korea, but Japan and China and even Taiwan and, you know, and even, you know, Thailand and Vietnam, all very similar in very, very many similar ways. So, you know, greeting and respecting people, no matter what their, you know, background or ethnicity or color or whatever it is very, very important. From the chairman to the janitor, it doesn't matter. I think treating everyone equally with the same respect is you know, very, very important. So I think you know, that was a huge you know, asset to me, surviving in this business for as long as I have. You know, it's not all gravy. I mean, there's people you run into that you know, visually, you know, just don't like, that you just have to deal with and avoid and whatnot. And everyone goes through that in life. But, you know, it's a matter of picking and choosing your battles and trying to keep everything as clean as possible when you're in this this very competitive field of life. But so far it's been all right. It's been good. I haven't, you know, it hasn't been too bad yet.
You've been very busy. When did you decide to leave Sony and set up your own company?
Well, 2011. I went through a lot of cultural struggle, trying to fit in. You know, adapting to Korea, being a Korean American in Korea wasn't always the easiest situation because you always start in the red. You know, I was naive back then, so I would always try to fight every war. But as I got older and wiser, I learned that it was very important to adapt and pick and choose your battles and do as the Romans do in Rome. Because, you know, honestly, at the end of the day, this is a whole nother discussion that I always tell a lot of my, you know, that I talk about to the younger generation. But, you know, we weren't invited here. We invited ourselves. And if you're inviting yourself to someone else's house, then you better make damn sure that you know, respect in their space and not, you know, causing a ruckus being yourself. You know, in a way that it's going to disrespect the people that, you know, own the land. And that's one aspect. And also, you know, you just have to accept the fact that every day you wake up in this country, you're playing as the away team. You're the visiting team that's playing the home team. And when you're the away team or the visiting team, you're gonna have tomatoes thrown at you or all kinds of things thrown at you and heckled at and all kinds of stuff that you just have to accept and understand that it's just part of the journey. You know, I didn't know that back then when I was, you know, 30 some years old, 31, 32, 33 years old coming into Korea. I was just excited. I was on cloud nine. I was the, you know, prodigy to the chairman of Sony Pictures. I was cocky as heck. You probably remember me as being a little bit that way.
I remember visiting your office too.
I mean, I had it going on, you know, I'd flick of my fingers. I had, you know, strawberries and blueberries delivered by Wolfgang Puck. I mean, oh my goodness. It was amazing, right? But like, I learned the hard way, but thank God I settled down and realized, you know, what reality was and humbled down a little bit. I still get off track once in a while when I get excited, but I mean, I'm older now, so I know how to control myself. But you know, it ended up being a collaboration of a lot of that kind of stuff. And then Sony was hard for me in Korea because it was hard for me to understand the culture and get along with employees and whatnot. So I did the job that I had to do, but at the same time, on a personal level, it was stressful. And I had a lot of anxiety because it was hard fitting in and being accepted. But then I was offered a job at a venture capital company to do film investment. And I knew nothing about it, but I had the network to provide which they needed. You know, there was a group of venture capital oh my God, my lips aren't moving the way that it should. There was a group of venture capital companies in Korea that were competing for a global fund, where the company would put in about 40%, and then the government would provide about 60%. And it was like 천이백억, so it was like almost like $100 million fund that they were putting together to invest in global contents. So they needed my expertise, and not only my expertise, but mostly my network. To try to figure out a way to create synergy to create the best package where they could win, you know, that global fund. And I was naive enough to follow the money and take a job that I didn't know anything about. So, you know, it was enough convincing for me to leave Sony and take another job that paid more money. So I went, but I realized how much I hated it, you know, within the first few months, because it was just not my cup of tea with investors and people that were on that side of the business that were trying to do what they do. Because I was more of a creative person. I was more in marketing and production and editing and all that kind of stuff. So I quickly found out that that wasn't the right place for me. So I ended up filming my first year, and then I quit. And then I realized, oh, you know what? Maybe I should start doing my own thing with all the stuff that I've been able to, you know, accomplish. And as I was kind of taking some time off, that's when I had the opportunity to link up with Squid Game, and he's like, hey, I saw this thing called Gangnam Style, and I want to find this guy. Do you know who he is? And one thing led to the next, which is probably best for another segment that we have later on. But that popped off, and it became this worldwide phenomenon that none of us expected to ever happen. And that literally just changed the course of my life and my career up until today. So that's how I got my job into the business, how I got into Sony, how I came to Korea, and what it's turned into today. But it's definitely been a very unorthodox roller coaster ride for me.
You're just doing a lot of great.
No complaints.
Because you're not only, you know, taking Korean entertainment, you know, actors and you know, K-pop stars into mainstream, but you're also bringing mainstream folks into Korean projects too. Like you brought for Operation Chromite, I remember you brought Liam Neeson in too. Yes. So you're kind of like that go-to person, like the middle person, right?
Right. You know, in 04, 05, you know, right around the time that we met, I had no inspiration or interest in trying to be Korean. I was as American as could be. I didn't speak any Korean. I mean, I spoke like very broken, a little bit of Korean because I grew up with my parents speaking in the house. But I mean, I grew up in a 80% Jewish community where there were no Asians, you know, to be seen on my street. So, you know, I've literally been to more bar mitzvahs than I have just regular, you know, Christian birthdays. You know what I mean? So I grew up as like the token Jewish kid, you know, growing up. I'm not Jewish, but I mean, I was like the honorary Jew growing up in the neighborhood. But then moving to LA was a little bit of a culture shock because there were just so many people that looked like me or that I looked like, or people that I looked like. So to see so many Koreans for me was a whole brand new ball game for me. And then I met you and Tad and all these other people and got into the mix of knowing Korean Americans in Koreatown. So that's what kind of organically exposed me to wanting to learn a little bit more Korean and getting more comfortable with Korean food, because in LA, Korean food is so amazing. I know you're a huge advocate of, you know, the kimchi festival that you were telling me about and all this kind of stuff. So
Korea Kimchi Day.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I was very exposed to things like that because of people like you growing up, and then I found a love and interest for Korean content and the English title is the Brotherhood of War. You know, I had found a way to see that film, you know, and I thought it was amazing. And I told my boss at the time, who was the chairman, hey, you know, not to you know, put you on the spot, but you know, we've done a lot of Japanese films in the past here in Hollywood, like The Last Samurai, and Sony's done Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which is Chinese. How come, you know, we've never done a Korean film? And I'm not just saying that because I'm Korean, but you know, I was just kind of curious. And you know, they didn't really understand where and what Korea was at the time. You know, a lot of people around the world thought Samsung was, you know, Japanese and Hyundai was Chinese, when in actuality they were Korean products. You know, from a certain point in time, that started to bother me. And I wanted to let the world know that, hey, you know, Samsung is actually Korean, and so is Hyundai. You know, Mitsubishi, Toyota, you know, Sony, all these are Japanese, yes, but you know, and Chinese brands, I didn't really know what anything was back then, but you know, these are Korean, so you know, represent. You know, you got to know. And that just kind of turned into me wanting to be that Golden Gate Bridge in you know, bringing more Korean content to the US mainstream market, so more people can have the opportunity to see how much, you know, opportunity to see that there's so much amazing talent on the other side of the ocean. And then also using the influence and power that I've been able to gain and bring Hollywood talent to the Korean market or the Asian market, so that they get to see another side of the world that they never got to experience, and also take that experience back to Hollywood and say, hey, I was just in a Korean film and they're amazing. And if you hear that from someone like Liam Neeson, who's a legend, then there's going to be a lot of other Hollywood actors just from hearing that wanting to go experience Korea as well. So, I mean, I think I was kind of like an indirect ambassador of tourism for Hollywood, you know, personnel coming in and out of Hollywood, and having, you know, Korean talent from, you know, directors to actors to behind the scenes people coming into Hollywood and having an opportunity to, you know, work on mainstream, you know, projects. So one thing led to the next. The Brotherhood of War, was my, you know, my can opener. And then Gangnam Style happened after that, and you know, Operation Chromite happened after that. But you know, those are just the successes of a gazillion failures. You know, so you know, it wasn't all gravy at the end of the day. There was a lot of anxiety and stress and failure and wanting to quit in between all of that. But you know, it's been a pretty cool game of survival the past you know,
I didn't know that you were going to live in Korea for that long. I thought you were going to come
I didn't
back.
know either. I didn't know either. I mean, I thought I'd literally be here 2-3 years, but then you know, one thing led to the next, and I got another job, and then I got married, as you know, and you know, now I'm 6-7 years in, and 13 years into Korea.
Wow, already? Your beautiful wife, Lisa, she's a musical theatrical actress, right? And a singer.
Yes, Lisa actually debuted in 2003 as an R&B singer.
Oh, okay.
You know, she's she's one of the legendary solo, Tony Braxton / Whitney Houston /
Wow.
top divas in Korea. She debuted just right after when like Solid and Aswan, came into the game. So she's very good friends with Min and Crystal and Joe and all those guys and George and whatnot. But they all literally started around the same time in the early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s, and about 3-4 years into her career, she started getting these opportunities, and in Korea we call it love call.
Love call.
To become a musical actress and perform on stage, and she literally popped off over there and did very, very well. So she's been able to hold her spot as one of the top 5 musical actresses here in Korea. But she comes from an R&B soul background as a K-pop singer, so she still has that. So she kind of transitions in between recording as a recording artist and as a musical actress. But she's had a pretty good run. She's doing a little bit more TV these days, so you'll see a lot more of her now.
Yeah.
But she's continuing to hold her ground on stage and continuing to do musicals here in Korea.
That's wonderful. You guys make a beautiful couple, and I can't wait to be able to meet her.
Thank you. I'm on my best. I'm always on my best behavior.
Good. That's what wives will do.
Yeah, that's right. Happy wife, happy life, right?
Yes, exactly. I knew that you're a smart guy. But thanks so much, Kyu, just for everything that you do as a Korean American, as an Asian American. When I see more Asian Americans in mainstream and these K-pop, K-drama actors, these folks on the nighttime news talk shows, it makes me so proud. But I always think of you. I think of you because I know that you're like little bit of this, little bit of that, all of that. You're doing big things, and I know that you have definitely made it possible. Like your efforts definitely made a difference. So I thank you so much. Yeah. And
it's just a small piece to the bigger picture. So I mean, obviously I can't do it alone, and I'm just trying to inspire other people to join the club and just make Korean content, Korean talent, not just Korean, but Asian, just the Asian community. I want it to be a normal, regular thing that you see regularly all the time, not this political or inclusion or just special appearance opportunity. I want people to be able to see it all the time, regularly, like it's a normal thing.
Right.
And that's really the end game at the end of the day. So thanks to streaming platforms, now people from all over the world can watch Korean content easily from any corner of the globe. And because of that, Squid Game's popped off, and now we have Squid Game 2 coming up, and a whole All of Us Are Dead 2 is coming, which is also starring one of our actresses. And Apple Plus is coming out with some amazing things. Disney Plus is coming out with some amazing things. Shout out to Pachinko, obviously, Teresa Pang, who is amazing, was one of my dearest, closest friends. They're all really doing their things, and without them, I wouldn't be here doing what I do and continue to be inspired. So we need more people like that. We also need more non-Asian people to support the cause and continue to love our content. So it's really a collective effort. Without people like you to recognize people that work behind the scenes to bring these amazing things to the screen and on the radio, we wouldn't be able to raise our voice. And through people like you, that's possible. So it's really a collective effort, and without everyone's help, it's literally impossible. So thank you, and thank all the people involved that are on the same mission. And I really encourage everyone to continue to fight and continue to create amazing quality content. And as long as we do that, there's a hell of a lot more things that we're going to be able to talk about in the future. So I'm super excited.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your time today. And I know that you had a long night too. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, we won't go into that, but I'm here right now. My eyes are open and we got through it. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And I hope to see you again here on Fireside, but even in person, come out to LA.
Absolutely. You know what? We will, well, I don't want to overstep my boundaries, but I'm hoping that Squid Game and some of our cast is nominated for the Emmys this year. That announcement will be coming later this month.
Okay.
So hopefully when that happens, then we'll start the campaign and hopefully I'll see you in September.
Yeah, and this time you're going to be at the award ceremony, not like through the back door illegally, but you're going to be.
Yeah, I'm actually getting invited these days, so I'm doing it.
Just like the SAG Awards and Golden Globe Awards, you actually you were like proudly walking in. It's like
I was proudly walking in with my QR code and startup and everything. So exactly. I was 1,000% official.
All right, thank you so much, Kyu.
Like to party. Listen up, yeah, it's time to start it. And